This ESPN podcast is brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com.
Coming up on the Best of the Paul Finebaum Show podcast, new College Game Day host Rece Davis drops by and previews the college football season. Phyllis responds to Danny Kanell's trolling on Twitter. The Finebaum Show political correspondent Jim in Tuscaloosa checks in from his couch. It's the Best of the Paul Finebaum Show podcast, and it starts right now.
This is the Best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Certainly college football season edging closer, and we all know change will be upon us, and one of the more eagerly watched changes that people have already embraced when it was announced is the appointment of Rece Davis as the new host of College Game Day. And Rece still has a few more Saturday mornings to sleep late, having done the gauntlet in basketball and now football. Instead of staying up late at night, he'll be getting up early in the morning. And Rece, thanks so much for the time, and I hope the summer has been good.
Everything's been great, Paul. I know that from watching you guys the last few days, you've been working very hard over the last few days, and I'm pleased to see that you sound as if you've recovered nicely.
Well, it's you know, at my age, Rece, it's tough to get around, but I keep plugging away.
I think you're fine.
Thanks a lot, and I know you're looking forward to the season as you always do, and as you begin to cross the X's off the Saturdays. I know there'll be some anticipation for the first College Game Day.
No, there's no question about that, Paul. I'm really excited about getting the season started. As you mentioned, I look forward to the season every year, but having the opportunity to, you know, embrace a new challenge like this and be part of a show like College Game Day with all of the talented people that I work with there is something that's really exciting. And it's been fun over the course of the summer to be able to get together with those guys, you know, for a day here and a day there for various events that we've needed to attend. So that's been good, too, in order to give us some time together as a group, because I think, you know, I've been asked a whole lot over the summer about chemistry and about getting to know guys. I know all of the people on that set and have worked with all of them in some capacity, at least fairly often over the years. What is going to be different is that I haven't been with them, with the exception of the playoffs last year and the national championship game. We haven't been together, you know, in a true game day on campus environment yet. So, you know, that chemistry will grow and emerge, but that's, you know, those are the type of things, having us together as a unit so we get better accustomed to how each person thinks and so forth, and what buttons we can push and where to challenge guys and how to further the discussion.
And Rece, you've done so many different things, from play-by-play at every level and every sport to you know, being in the studio, many different with many different personalities, including Lou and Mark May. I assume if you could survive countless years with those two gentlemen, this ought to be pretty easy.
You know, I tell you what, it's I really enjoyed the time. Mark and I were together at a charity event just last week, and I've said many times, I don't have a better friend on the planet than Mark May. And, you know, I have great respect for him as a professional and even more as a person. So, you know, that part of it on a personal level with both Mark and Lou, with whom I'm also close, was, you know, I mean, that's never easy to make a change when you're embracing something different and leaving some great friends behind. But yeah, they can be feisty and cantankerous. You know how veteran coaches are, and big time players. They think they're right all the time, and you and I have to remind them that they're not.
No doubt. Well, certainly I know you'll be interviewed countless times, and the questions will, I'm sure at some point, be mind-numbing. But I think everyone who knows you has little doubt this will be a seamless transition, and I know you're looking forward to it. As far as the season, we're at that juncture, Rece, where we start developing storylines, and it seems pretty obvious that Ohio State is the biggest.
There's no question, Paul. I mean, they are, you know, to me, the prohibitive favorite to repeat, but that doesn't mean that they will. I mean, I don't know where I stole this saying from, but it's not the best team that always wins. It's the team that plays the best on that particular day. If the best team, in my judgment, were guaranteed to win, then there wouldn't be any need for a season. Ohio State's the best team. But that doesn't mean they'll win. And seasons unfold and teams, have rough days for whatever reason, and that's what makes it dramatic. But I clearly think that this year is a little bit different. In past years, I guess maybe last year was a little bit of an exception with Florida State coming back with Jameis Winston returning, but most years we've had an SEC juggernaut that everybody is watching and shooting for and waiting to see whether they will stumble or when they will stumble. This year, that team is Ohio State. And so it's, I think it is the most compelling and the biggest storyline of the entire season. But now Ohio State, which when I was there last August, I think they thought that this year, this upcoming season, 2015, was the one in which they would be best positioned to win a title. But now a different set of challenges, I think, comes up when you are trying to repeat and you have sustaining success and you don't have any more of that nobody believes in the Big Ten to be able to kind of fuel you because you just proved it by winning the first college football playoff. So I think that'll be an interesting thing to watch with Ohio State this season as well.
Yeah, we've obviously spent the last 4 days talking about the SEC, but I would like to get your thoughts on TCU as well, because as soon as you get someone to say Ohio State is the best, most will say TCU is next.
I don't disagree with that because they have so many guys coming back on offense. But I do wonder whether they benefited a little bit last year, early on perhaps, from sneaking up on some people. They had some things, and I'm not suggesting they got lucky. They're an excellent team, so I don't want that to be taken out of context. But they had some fortuitous bounces last year. Of course, then again, they probably should have beaten Baylor and didn't, so I guess it cut both ways. I'm not sure I'm as sold on them at the moment as some are in terms of being a slam dunk playoff team. Now, are they going to be a terrific team? They're going to win a lot of games? There's no doubt about that. And I do think that TCU and Baylor are the class of the Big 12, and one of those teams will win that conference and almost certainly this year, I believe, be in the playoff. But I don't know that I look at TCU as being a complete slam dunk, over Baylor, for instance. I mean, they have a couple of tough games away. I think Oklahoma State's kind of sneaky road game. They've got to go to Oklahoma. I swore to myself before the season started that I would not put any expectation whatsoever on Oklahoma or Georgia until they did something. It's hard to get around Georgia in the SEC East, but I'm trying. I think TCU has some schedule challenges with road games, but certainly they have the benefit of having Baylor at home. So I guess I'm just saying I don't think they are as big a slam dunk as I view Ohio State to be, which I look at Ohio State's schedule at the moment, and certainly after 4 weeks you and I could have this conversation and things could change. But as I look at the moment, the only team I see on the schedule that I believe can beat them is Michigan State, and I'm not sure that that game's in Columbus. Michigan State's without Pat Narduzzi. It's a little bit of a different dynamic now.
Rece, I hate to use the same script from last year, but if either TCU or Baylor lose and perhaps the loss is after the midpoint of the season, are we going to go through the same conversation that we did last year about them getting left out of the 14 playoff?
Probably. I think particularly, Paul, with Baylor, because they don't have it will be the exact same discussion because of their weak non-conference schedule. At least TCU has Minnesota, which is a respectable Big Ten team. Just like last year, they both play SMU, and Baylor plays a couple teams they're supposed to beat, and TCU plays another team. They have another guarantee game. So I think it's the same discussion. The one thing that, Paul, I feel like I'm in the minority, and at times I feel like I'm totally overlooking something. But I'm not in this crowd that somehow that the two things that hurt the Big 12 last year was that, A, they didn't have a championship game, and B, they didn't declare one champion. And the reason I say that is because if I were sitting on that committee, and I have to believe from the guys I talked to on that committee, that they didn't really need the Big 12 to say, oh, by the way, guys, just to let you know, we are declaring that Baylor is our champion. I mean, I just trust the football judgment of those guys a little bit more than that they don't have to have someone ordain them a champion. And as for the extra game, I still look at it. I mean, look, if you play another high-profile game late as Ohio State did, I'm not saying that it doesn't benefit you, but if you have, 5, 6 games against formidable competition, which at the end of the day, with a few exceptions, that's probably what everybody winds up having, at least what everybody views as that. Don't you evaluate those games and judge them on their merit, and you don't need a last impression necessarily if you think a team is far and away better? I just felt like that the whole Big 12 one champion, Big 12 has to have a championship game was sort of a knee-jerk overreaction to one season. So let's see how it goes this year. But as you point out, I guess if we have the same conversation, then we'll continue to have that debate as well.
Yeah, no, it seems like we do tend to bang our head against the wall about the same subjects every year. Looking elsewhere around the country, and I'm doing my best to avoid the SEC questions, Rece.
Fire away, Paul. I'm ready for anything.
I'm suffering from SEC fatigue after 4 days in Hoover, Alabama. But around the rest of the country, obviously the Pac-12 has certainly shown a lot. What do you see in that direction?
I'm really, really high on USC. Now, I do think that their margin for error is a little bit slim because of the sanctions. I don't think that their depth will be what it needs to be probably until next year or the year after. And that's the thing people miss on sanctions sometimes. It's not the starters. It's not the most immediate class. It's how do you practice. It's who you're practicing against. It's who has to step in if you get one of your frontline guys beat up. What you end up having is you end up having guys that probably ought to be scout teamers playing that are on the depth chart. You have walk-ons on the scout team, and then you have guys who should be redshirting and developing that are forced to play in some capacity. So it kind of backs you up. That said, their young talent is phenomenal. I called their bowl game last year. I think that they've got some of the best young offensive linemen in the country. Certainly Cody Kessler is terrific at quarterback. And they have some playmakers on defense as well. I mean, Adoree Jackson, who will play both ways for them, he's a scintillating athlete on both sides of the ball. So, I'm really high on USC, and I think that they'll come out of the Pac-12 and go to the college football playoff.
Great to catch up with Rece Davis. Rece, best wishes as you get ready for that first Saturday. Everyone I know is pulling for you, and I can't wait to see it.
Paul, I appreciate it. Have a good summer.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Let's head on to Dorothy in Alabama. Dorothy, good afternoon.
Good.
How you doing?
Just fine.
That's great to hear. Anything you would like to talk about today, Dorothy?
Is this the Paul Finebaum show?
Yes, it is. This is the Paul
I would
Finebaum
like very
show.
much to talk to Paul Finebaum and tell him I disagree with a lot of the stuff that the people are saying about my coach, Nick Saban.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're speaking to the host of the Paul Finebaum show, so what are you unhappy about, Dorothy?
Well, it doesn't matter what Nick Saban says. They are always low-rating him. It doesn't matter what he says. They always want to take it out of context. They should not have the recruiters in there during the football camp. Wait till all the football games are over.
Dorothy, I'm not sure. Let me make sure I understand you correctly. What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
Because Nick Saban said, I'm on the phone. Come look. Because they said that everybody says that Nick Saban is just making up excuses why they lost to Ohio. It's because the recruiters came in and all. But they did.
Well, did you hear,
said they should wait till all the games are over.
Hold on. Did you hear what Coach Saban said the other day?
I I can't even hear myself on TV. All I hear is my name up there. I don't know what I'm saying up on that TV.
Yeah, a lot of people would probably agree with that. Thanks, Dorothy. That's kind of someone who makes a lot of sense, and that's Lance from Tennessee. Good afternoon,
Well,
Lance.
all I'm telling you, I love Nick Saban.
I thought we were done with Dorothy. Can we be done with Dorothy?
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Bobby is up next in Birmingham. What's up, Bobby?
Hey, how you doing today, buddy?
Good to have you back.
Yeah, good to have you back.
Thank you.
My wife asked me, say, why don't you go out to Hoover and see Paul? And I said, yeah, I should go out there and see Paul, baby. I said, but it's just too damn hot.
I wish you had.
Yeah, everybody's trying to put old Crimson Mike in check. And nobody said nothing about Gus Malzahn. They let Gus Malzahn get up there and say he had the best coordinator in the universe. Ain't nobody said nothing about that. When Alabama beat Texas, Paul, who was the defensive coordinator?
When Alabama beat Texas, it was Will Muschamp.
When Alabama beat Florida a couple of times, who was the head coach / coordinator?
Well, the head coach, one of the times was Will Muschamp.
Will Muschamp. And then they get up there and say,
actually, excuse me, two of the times. His first year and then last year.
Yeah, it was twice. Will Muschamp.
Right.
And you know he had a hand in the defense, too.
Sure he did.
And then they get up there and say Jeremy Johnson played one game, and now they want to give him the Heisman Trophy. To win the Heisman Trophy, you got to have passing yards and rushing yards. When you say rushing yard, that means feet, Paul. The boy got 2 left feet. He might be good for 2 yards up the middle, but all of a sudden he's the second coming to Cam Newton. And then they say, well, Alabama lost the last 3 big games. But the quarterback, they keep talking about a quarterback. They didn't lose those games because of the quarterback. In the kick 6, McCarry didn't lose that game. Kirby Smart lost that game. And in the game against Ohio State, Blake Sims didn't lose that game. Kirby Smart lost that game. But they got so much hype with Auburn and Tennessee. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to let you go. I hope it pans out, because if it don't, you can get a job in Lee County or either Knoxville, Tennessee, repairing the asphalt, because they're going to run all of their asses up out of there. I'll let you later, Paul. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much. Always good to hear from you.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Geico presents Strange Saving Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Jim is next up in Tuscaloosa. How are you, Jim?
Well, I don't know. I mean, you tell me. The one thing you did right today earlier was cut short that goober Lance, Tennessee, Florida, whatever he is. And that was good, Paul. But, you need to, this SEC stuff is really getting me down because, Paul, this is the open week. And I know you know that. And I know you used to cover that. Now you need to, well, you did talk about it a little bit between the break while ago on TV, but people on the radio didn't hear that. And come on, Paul, I mean, you do know a little something. I taught you a little something about high golf standards.
I'll say this, Jim, and unfortunately, based on what I did yesterday and where I've been today and what I've been doing, I have not had a chance to see the Open, so
well, if you got it on the studio, I know Universal.
But Jim, I have 8 monitors here. It's not easy to focus on.
And I know Universal has just now hired Marcus Spears.
Well,
and they might hire me if I keep talking about Universal rather than Disney World. Mm-hmm. But if you'll send me to Disney World, I'll hype them. You know how to hype somebody if they do me a favor. By the way, Paul, there's a girl from Auburn. I like the sunglasses when she followed me on Twitter. And she said, I'll send you a pair to Finebaum. Well, I don't, you know, that's probably just a joke, but in case she does, I'm sure you'll forward them to me, won't you?
You bet, Jim.
Oh, that's great, Paul. You're so enthusiastic.
Well, Jim, I'll be honest with you, Jim. I have no earthly idea what you're talking about. You call up here.
Girl,
you're starting. How does anyone in Missouri or Montana or Monterey have any earthly idea what you're talking about?
Okay, well, let me explain it. A chick followed me on Twitter.
A chick?
Yeah, a girl.
Okay.
She's from Auburn. She's got an Auburn thing on there, you know, whatever you call it.
Okay.
And she's kind of cute girl, about 35, 30.
That's great.
And she had on a nice pair of sunglasses, and I said, those are neat. I like them. She said, I'll send you a pair. I'll send them to Finebaum. I said, okay, that's great. You got it now, Paul? Has America got it?
I finally figured it out. Hey, Jim, listen, I'm not as sharp as I used to be. You know that.
No, I do know that, Paul. That's what's bothering me. I really do know that you're not as sharp as you used to. I tried to sharpen you up.
I'm like Tiger Woods. I just can't find the fairway anymore.
Well, that's pathetic, and he is done. I agree now. He is absolutely done. He'll never return. He's not Jack Nicklaus, and he can't return. And you know what's wrong with Paul? You know why he can't return? Because he's got too much pride. Too much pride. I mean, too much pride will keep you from doing the little humble things you need to do.
I'll tell you this, though, Jim, but you should know this more than anyone else. If you understand the game of golf, you cannot write someone off based on a performance. Tom Watson went
what do you mean,
months, if not years.
About the last 2 years.
Nicholas struggled for 2 or 3 years before he won the Masters. Golf is strange. A baseball pitcher, once he's done, he's done. But I would dare say that you better. I would not write Tiger Woods. You're the one that asked me about my golf opinion. I'm trying to give it.
Well, you did, and let me say something now.
Okay.
Without interruption, if you don't mind. Look, I'm talking about stupid things the guy's doing there. It's not when you start doing. Nicklaus never did stupid things when he was on a decline, did he? I don't think he did. All I'm telling you is Tiger is doing stupid stuff. For example, he's hitting it bad today, and I saw him. You know, he goes to the next tee and he pulls driver, hits driver way over in the trees. You know. I mean, when you're playing bad like that, Paul, you take a 3-wooder, you take a 2-iron.
Where are there trees at St. Andrews?
Well, not trees, but there was shrubbery. It was some kind of shrubbery because he was in it about an hour ago. He had to take a drop. Do you not recall?
I wasn't. Jim, I haven't seen 2 shots in the whole tournament.
Well, he had to take a drop because he hit it in the big tall shrubbery somewhere on there. So I agree. There's something. They're not trees, but they're high shrubbery, or whatever you call it.
Who do you like?
You know what? Of course, I like Spieth now. I hope he wins it because it'd be great for sports. It'd be great, and he probably will. I think
I think Dustin's going to win.
No, I think Dustin's a dog. Dustin's incredible hitting the ball from tee to green, but for some reason he's choked 2 times in the last 2 years, in the last 2 years, 2 times he's choked in a major when he had it won. I don't know. He'll have to prove it to me, but he's hard to beat. I mean, the way he hits it, it's going to be hard to beat if he continues to putt well like he's doing now. I tell you, though, Paul, you need to talk about the golf a little bit. I mean, SEC, what do you mean? Why so much SEC? And why the implosion remark regarding Saban? You think he imploded?
I didn't say he imploded. I said the implosion concerning what he said.
What about the implosion of Nick Saban?
Well, first of all, I know what I said, and there's
a
difference.
Too, Paul.
Oh, okay.
Well, go ahead. I want to hear it.
Well, I was asking him to react to the towering inferno that occurred after Saban's comments. And Jim, listen, it did. You heard or maybe you didn't because you were watching the Golf Channel the other day. Okay, well, for those people who did care about the SEC media days.
Come on, Paul. You're getting better. Come on.
We had pretty interesting. You would have enjoyed our roundtable on Wednesday afternoon, Jim.
I just heard Spears say that when he made the remark about Universal, you said, "Oh no, you're gonna be fired."
I didn't, Jim. I did not say that. I just said we work for Disney.
Paul, can we talk about Universal? Does it have to be all Disney World?
I don't care what you talk about. I've never stopped you from saying anything.
No, you haven't, Paul. You haven't. But you stopped Marcus.
Well, I was trying to point out to Marcus, he's about to move his family, that if you're going to work here, be cognizant of the owner.
Good night, Paul. He just mentioned Universal. He didn't say I'm
No, he didn't just mention it. He said he prefers Universal to Disney World.
So you can't speak your mind anymore on the phone.
No, you could. Jim, let's get the context correct. He's taking his family to Orlando. I asked him if he's going to Disney World. He said, no, I prefer Universal. That's when I made my point.
And you made it about 5 minutes worth. And you stomped it in the ground, Paul.
Okay. Well, I'll learn from you, Jim. You don't ever just make a subtle point. You drive it home hard.
Well, you're supposed to drive it home hard. Well, in that case, though, I'm sorry. I now screwed my own case up here. But in that case, I mean, good night. You just stretch that, and I mean, come on, Paul. Let's talk. I mean, I don't get the chance to talk to you that much. I'm trying to get something
going.
Well,
okay, let's move on from Marcus. What else would you like to talk about?
Well, you bring something up, and we'll go to it, all right? Because we need to discuss the issue. How about Donald Trump and the rising in the polls and Hillary dropping she's just dropping, like a sinking ship.
Well, listen, I think Donald Trump is one of the most interesting developments we've seen.
I'm going to be honest with you, Paul. I am being serious now. I think I'm a pretty bright boy.
Sure.
Pretty bright.
No doubt.
But here's my point, Paul. These morons that keep talking about Donald Trump couldn't run the country, he's just a businessman. What more now do we need than a businessman? Tell me. You're a business guy.
Well, if you're going to be the president, you do have to have business acumen. You have to have executive understanding. He has all that. You also have to understand a little bit about diplomacy as well, because otherwise the world will be blowing up. I mean, would you trust Donald Trump during a nuclear crisis?
As much as anybody I know of, Paul. As much as any of them running. Let me just preface by saying, as much or more than any of the clown, as much as Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush has got that blood in him that'll attack anything if it moves, even if it doesn't. Even if it doesn't a preemptive strike. Like we used to talk about.
Jim. Can we talk?
Yeah, let's talk.
You're missing your call. You're wasted in sports. You need to be a political.
I told you I quit sports, Paul. I am a political.
You need to be a political commentator. You would be
hilarious.
I am a political,
and the best on this show you've ever seen.
No doubt.
So can we continue, or you want to go on to another day? I mean, I'll talk for 6 o'clock.
Now on Morning Joe, let's bring in Jim from Tuscaloosa.
Well, look, Paul, the other day you had on some clown. Who was it? You let that person talk for 30 dadgum minutes. I don't remember who it was, but I said, Legend, look at this. He and I talked after the show. We talked. I said, what do you think about Paul letting that clown go on for 30 minutes?
I mean, was this a guest or a caller?
It was a caller.
No caller other than you has ever gone on that long.
Well, that's one of the smart things you've done, and that's why you're going to be in my book, Paul. That's why you made my book. You'll be in the chapter.
I hope so. I hope I get more than one page.
Well, I didn't even get a whole page.
You got page 54 though.
Okay, you tell me, is Dustin going to win it, or do you think Spieth? I think Spieth's coming. Can you say it?
I don't even know where Spieth is right now in the tournament.
He's 6 under.
I like Dustin. I'm a big believer in bouncing back after. I mean, he's almost come back before, but I think he's as good as anyone other than Spieth right now on the tour.
I agree, but can he win a major?
Well, Phil Mickelson finally won after years of choking. Tom Watson won. Greg Norman won, then choked about 15 more times. I've seen it happen.
Do a public service right now since we are talking. Right now, I turned to ESPN, and I'm watching you and watching golf a little bit. Mm-hmm. Right now, is that live? It can't be live after 9:30 over there. It's 6 hours ahead of us. It can't be live.
It's live. They have another.
What is going on?
They have another couple of. They have a couple more minutes of light over there. I think the sun goes down. I've only been to England one time, but the sun goes down around 9:30 or 10 this time of the year.
Did not know that. I thought it was like Alabama, where it was like 8:30.
No, it's a little bit later than that.
And it's also a month later that the break of the light. The light started turning. In other words, it started getting darker sooner a month ago.
Yeah, I was in Alabama for 4 days. The sun I saw it was out till about 8 o'clock yesterday.
I know, but it was dark at 8:30.
Okay, they're telling me we need to go to a break. I hate to run. I mean,
they're running the show. They get me and you off together because we can talk some stuff. Can't we?
Yeah, no, it's already Saturday morning in the United States.
Good talking to you, Paul. You've sharpened up in the last 5
Thank
minutes.
you, Jerry. I feel so much better, Jim.
I didn't think I always feel good talking to you.
I was down in the dumps when the show started, but I feel great now.
Well, you ought to be peppy now, and I hope you can continue through the rest of the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Brock Hewart joins us right now, and we're delighted to welcome our friend from across the country to talk some college football. Brock, I hope the summer has been good. Good afternoon.
It has been good. Thanks for playing a little bit of Hank there, because country boys can survive, even on the West Coast when it's 90 degrees and sunny as it's been most of the summer. So all good. Looking forward to seeing you here soon enough and getting closer and closer to kickoff.
You bet, Brock. We just got back from media days, and everywhere we went, the buzz was pretty bright and powerful on Tennessee. I know you have some pretty interesting opinions on the Vols and how they'll fare.
They keep Mr. Dobbs healthy, they will make some noise in the East. I love the fact if you're a Volunteer fan, you get a lot of games in your building this year. I think the schedule at least favorable in that way, as favorable as it can be for any SEC team. Sure, they've got their gauntlet, but they've got to keep their quarterback upright. That's been problematic over the years in that system, certainly for Butch there in Knoxville. So this all hinges on him, and I know that's no grand analysis. I'll keep the quarterback healthy. That's brilliant stuff. But really, for them, they have nothing behind them. They got enough weapons at receiver and at running back, some key pieces to their defensive front, a little bit weaker SEC East, and as I said, a favorable schedule. I think they can make some noise. I think they can get to 8, possibly 9 wins, and if the quarterback stays healthy all season long, they're going to be highly competitive.
Certainly, on the other side, we went back and forth all week between Alabama and Auburn. How do you see that battle?
Yeah, I probably give the nod to Auburn, and just about everybody I have talked to, Paul, in this entire offseason. I'm just finishing putting a little piece together for ESPN the magazine and their college football preview, and I've talked to more people, and they are the buzz. When you want to talk about the glow and the hype and the buzz, I think so much of it has really been around what Gus has, the obvious addition of Will Muschamp, what he's going to bring, I think, defensively with some of the talent they have on hand. I think a scheme that allows them to play to some of the strength of that athleticism and personnel defensively. And, yeah, I think I probably right now, before we ever take a snap, I do favor Auburn. I am, like everybody else, concerned about Lane in that quarterback position, and that is grossly unsettled. I think there's great debate, and it won't be settled until Jacob Coker takes some live bullets. They will try to scrimmage, I'm sure, a ton. Nick Saban loves competition. He's going to do the best he can to weed that position out in scrimmages in August. But ultimately, it's the 100,000 sitting in that stadium and whether or not Jacob Coker can handle the expectations and the pressure. He couldn't do it a year ago. He's got to make a massive stride to do it this year. But still, that position being unsettled gives, I think, Auburn the hand going in.
And I know you talk a little bit about Auburn. Alabama just can't help for being in the news. Nick Saban made some very interesting comments this week about he thinking his players were affected by the NFL evaluation. Brock, your thoughts on what he said, and does it ring? I mean, I know his suggestions ring true, but do you think it really affected his players against Ohio State?
I think that's two different things. I think on the field, no. Ohio State was better. The big game coach, Urban Meyer, got that team ready to play, and they physically handled Alabama in a way that I don't think really many people expected them to do. So that's on the field. Off the field, there's going to be unintended consequences when you're one of the most powerful voices in college football, and I put Nick Saban in that territory. And this is not the first time. You've been at those media days. I've been at them through the years. You're at some of those press conferences with Nick. He's not afraid to state his opinion. But with those opinions will come, as I said, those two key words, unintended consequences that everybody will reach and grab onto. I loved his sit down with you later, and he said, no, we lost. We got our butts kicked. What do you want me to do? We didn't own it. I'm not making any excuses, but when you're as big and as powerful as he has and as accomplished as he has in the game, people will at times take and run with things that you have to say.
Talking to Brock Hewart, and finally, Brock, I would like to get your thoughts on LSU. They were picked to finish third. And I felt a lot of fuel and momentum for LSU. Certainly seeing Leonard Fournette was a bright sight early in the morning with those red pants. But there are people in LSU that they love the talent down there. I mean, you can't help but like what he has on that field, although there remains a question of quarterback.
Well, I think LSU in some ways mirrors some of the rest of the conference. And you said on that set with Joey and Davey and Tess and talked about maybe some of the less buzz, some of the less hype, or maybe some of the over-attention within the conference. And I think as the more I dig into this, Paul, I think a lot of it has to do with that position. That run of McCarron and Manziel and Mettenberger and Murray and even Connor Shaw was record-setting in so many ways, with wins, with stats, and in stature. And I think that was the highlight of the SEC in an unbelievable run of 7 straight titles. But that position was empty a year ago, and I think it affected the conference largely. And I think it's just as empty this season. I think there's a lot of pretty average offensive lines as well in the SEC this year. And until those two positions, and especially the one under center, are solidified, much like my analysis with Alabama, how do you feel good about it? I don't care what level it is, high school, college, pro. When you've got that guy under center, that franchise quarterback, you feel good about your odds and you feel good about your chances, like an ace pitcher in baseball. I got my pitching staff in rotation. I feel good about my odds. I don't have it. Like Alabama, like LSU, it makes me pretty uncomfortable to think that they're anywhere close to what they were when they were national title winners.
Brock Hewitt, the first of hopefully many appearances with us here. Brock, thanks. I hope you enjoy whatever left of this summer, and we will see you very soon.
Sounds great, Paul. Look forward to it.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
And now, for Geico's edition of Stuff Found in Your Car, we go inside your side door pocket.
Hello, yes, the crumpled receipt with gum in it. From your anniversary dinner, you sprang for expensive wine, your server was Beth. That dinner was a couple $100. Money you could get back if you switched to Geico and saved hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. I bet you'd save that receipt. Frame it even. But really, where did I go wrong? Was it the quartage fee?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com today.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Tammy is up next. Tammy, good afternoon.
Hey, Paul.
Hi there.
First, before I get started, I'd like to say it was so good seeing Robert, wasn't it?
You better believe it. It was a thrill, and I was so glad. It's not easy to get people upstairs at the SEC Media Days, but John and a lot of other, and Mark and so many other people worked hard to make it possible, so we were able to get him on our show Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah, I told him to make sure he told Nick Saban War Eagle. I don't know if he got it in or not.
No, I don't think he did. I think he talked to Coach Saban, but I think he was more interested in Coach Saban knowing who he was rather than he was an Auburn fan.
But anyway, I want to get back to the reason I called other than that. I don't know who that guy was called earlier about, I can't believe that they rated Auburn overall, but yet they still got Alabama #1 in the West. These voters out here, who are the voters? The coaches or just the media itself?
Well, I'll explain it again, Tammy. The reason that happened, some people voted Auburn lower, third in the SEC. Alabama, I think, was mostly picked first or second. So Auburn lost a couple.
Yeah, y'all always picking Alabama. Y'all always picking Alabama to be anything except losers. And that's what they are, the big L loser, like they always are. Because, oh, my gosh, y'all just, y'all
Tammy, can you explain to me why it really matters to you? Auburn was, Auburn was picked to finish
because Auburn don't never get ranked #1, Paul Finebaum. That's why they always have to work their way to the top, no matter if they got the hardest schedule out there. Now here we are with a cupcake schedule this year, and we can't even get voted #1. But yet we have the hardest
Tammy, if you would quit screaming long enough to listen, Auburn was the pick to win the Southeastern Conference. What difference does it make if they weren't the pick to win the SEC West? Why can't you just take the good and forget the bad? They're the pick to win the league.
Well, yeah, you know why they picked to win the league? Because we are going to win the league. At least they got that part right. Because they ain't nobody else going to win, I promise you that. Nobody in the SEC is going to win. And all them voters out there that voted Alabama to win the West and the best in the West before he even gets started, they're about as ignorant as that dang black man over there in Georgia. He He's ignorant, too. They're as ignorant as he is.
Who are you talking about?
That black man over there in Georgia, he is the most ignorant man I have ever heard speak in the United States of America. You know, that guy over there in Georgia, my husband said what he was the president of. I can't remember what he told me he was up.
I'm still lost on this person that you're referring to. What is his name?
I can't remember his name, Paul, but you know he's over there in Georgia in that park over there, that Confederate park over there, wanting to scratch off names of Confederate soldiers and break down the monuments over there and sell off the monuments. Out of the Confederate parks over there. Do you realize how ignorant that black man is? I don't care if he's black, if he was black, he just happened to be a black man that said it. He's over there, said that. I mean, he literally said that on TV. That come out of his mouth. Does he not realize what the history of America, of the United States is, of the United States of America is? Does he not realize how he even come to this world and how he got to be where he's at because of all that happened in the history? And he's wanting to take it away.
First of all, Tammy, what happened? What are we talking about?
He got on there, Paul, and a lady that was a teacher now, she was a black lady. And she had more sense than this guy that's supposed to be representing some kind of organization. She had more sense, and she's a black lady, and she had children there that she was taking through that park, Paul, and she was telling them about the history. And you know what? She never once even thought about that flag. And you know, she had the nerve. She said herself, we have all genders and races, racial children here with me, and I teach them the history. And you know, she said that none of them ever look at that flag other than different, that it's a part of history.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Tim is next in Columbus, Ohio. How are you, Tim?
Hey, Mr. Finebaum. Nice talking to you again. The first time I spoke to you, I was pretty irate, if you don't recall. I was pretty irate, and after thinking about it, it was because, of course, I felt someone said something derogatory about Woody Hayes. And, in Ohio, listen, we got Jack Nicklaus and Gray of Ohio, and we've had 7 presidents from this state. And if you ask an Ohioan the number one person, they're going to tell you Woody Hayes. And that's just how we feel. So when we hear people talk, when we hear the Southeast talk about great coaches and never mentioned a 5-time national champion, Woody, it irritates some of us. But let me just say this. That's not you, Mr. Finebaum, because I've come to realize that you're a pretty fair guy. Let me just say about your previous callers one was talking about how, and you, too, were talking about how the SEC and the Big Ten, you're absolutely right. The SEC from top to bottom is the strongest conference practically that we have seen at this time, practically that we've seen from top to bottom. The top 3 in the Big Ten, I think, can compete for championships in the SEC. But when you take, and to be frank, if you take the bottom 6, bottom 7 of the Big Ten, they're not going to match up with the bottom 6 or 7 of the SEC. You guys are stacked down there. But having said that, we, like I said, our top 3, I think, can compete. But when the guy says, what is it about Ohio State? Why do we think, why do they think that we're going to be so well? We have who we think is going to be the number 1 player picked in the college draft in Joey Bosa. We got what we think is the number 1 running back in the country. We have the 2 years ago, Braxton was the favorite to win the Heisman, and I think he's going to be our starting quarterback come September. We were loaded on defense. We got 4 of the 5 returning offensive linemen from last year. We are loaded. So when people ask, why do we think we're going to be? Why do everyone think, where is this coming from? We have always been here. No one, even when the BCS was going on, no one played in more BCS games been Ohio State. No one.
You know, let me jump in here, Tim. I mean, I've heard that 1,000 times, and how many of those did you win?
How many of those did we win?
Yeah, I mean, all I hear from Ohio State, man, we've been in more BCS games. I can think of quite a few losses among those games, and one that got wiped off the board.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. When we beat Oregon, that's no longer on the board. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I think it was the one against Arkansas that got wiped off. Listen, I mean, thanks for calling me. Listen, the season's begun. I'm not saying Ohio State fans shouldn't call, but I would say if you're going to keep calling, come up with something new. I mean, it's a broken record from Buckeye fans. We've been in more BCS games. Okay. How'd that game against Florida go a couple of years ago? We've been this. Woody Hayes that. I mean, talk about your team this year. Urban Meyer's the head coach. You have 3 great quarterbacks. Everyone in Ohio wants to talk about the past.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Phyllis is up
next.
Hey,
Paul.
Hey, Phyllis.
Hey, how you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Good. First of all, I want to send out a shout-out to Eric from Brooklyn. I appreciate so much what he said about me the other day. And, Eric, we're cool. We're cool, buddy. And Paul, I got my big boy Alabama pants on. I've got my jersey ready. I am so fired up and ready for football. And I just can't hardly wait for the first game. But what I really want to talk about is Kanell. Why are you continually to tweet Paul and ask him to speak about what's going on at Tennessee? We don't know everything yet. This just came out. It's Paul's show, Kanell, not your show. And so I know you went to Florida State. I know you want Paul to start desecrating and just bringing down the University of Tennessee before anything is really truly known about it. So why don't you just shut up and quit tweeting about it and wait and let's find out what's going to happen. And then it's none of your business. Keep your mouth shut. What Paul has to say is what he says on his own show. Remember, Kanell, it's Paul Finebaum's show, not Kanell. I'm sorry, Paul, but he has tweeted over and over about you bringing this up about Tennessee. You'll do it in your own good
Let me say this, Phyllis, and unlike Danny Kanell, I have a job and I can't sit around and worry about Twitter.
Exactly. He's wanting you to start immediately downing Tennessee right now before any of this has even come to fruition, before we really know anything. Hey, yes, you were open and out front about FSU, but my God, it was already out. The facts were already known. Everything had already been spilled. He wants you to do this
Phyllis, first
Tennessee
of all, why are you feeding the beast? Why don't you worry about something other than Danny Kanell?
Well,
I mean, you saw you ran Colin Cowherd out of ESPN, didn't you?
My what?
You saw where you ran Colin Cowherd out of ESPN.
I didn't run him out of ESPN. If he went out of ESPN, he did it on his own volition. He didn't do it on me.
They announced yesterday that he was leaving ESPN.
Well, I'm not sorry. I'm not a bit sorry because he's arrogant and he's mean to people. He's just plain mean to people. And like I said, I apologize for the spin I put on his name, and I'm very sorry about that. But that still don't mean he's not a butthole. So good riddance. I really don't care. And if Danny wants to fill in his shoes, I'm here. Come on, Danny. I'm right here. I'm not going nowhere.
I think. And by the way, I'll be spending a lot of time with Danny this football season, so I'm sure he'll be able to respond to you. But that's okay, Phyllis. I'm glad to see. More than anything, whether you like Danny or Cowherd or whatever his name is, I'm just glad to see you back.
Well, thank you, Paul. And listen, I don't dislike Danny. He's just pissing me off. That's all. He just won't shut up until all this really comes out enough to talk about. It's like he jumped on the bandwagon before the horses was hooked up. So that's all I got to say. But roll Tide, Bella, go get 'em. Go get 'em. You got it, buddy. Love you, Paul. Talk with you later. I'm doing much better. I'm getting my breath back.
You're sounding great, Phyllis. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast. Tune into the Paul Finebaum Show every day from 3 to 7 Eastern on the SEC Network or on the ESPN Radio app. The Boston Red Sox begin the second half with a road trip to the AL West, where they'll face Mike Trout and the LA Angels.
Dives in, and he made the catch!
First pitch is Sunday at 8 Eastern on ESPN and on ESPN Radio.